listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
So, pals, we are recording our first new episode of the new year.
Yay, happy 2023.
Yeah, enjoy
Happy
happy
New Year.
2023. I'm like pretty excited about it. What was gonna be? I forget what my thing was gonna be. It was like 2023, it's all about me or something? Or
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
okay,
that's
cool.
it.
Vaguely? I don't know. Anyway.
You still got it.
Still got it? It could be something slightly different. But anyways, I was too quick to just steer hopefully into the holiday season.
You tempted fate with that one.
I just dared fate, and fate was all like, "You silly scuttlebutt. You are the dumbest twig that's ever twigged." This is where I'm at, guys.
It's all about you sitting around drinking tea. There you go.
I mean, I will. Yeah. So we had our like very tiny in-person Christmas Eve with my in-laws, and then we hosted just like a small version of my family on Christmas Day, and then Boxing Day, first thing in the morning, we test Grandma and Carlos for COVID, and they are positive. So that was. We were, I gotta say though, like as much as it sucked, and I never got it. I was masked, sleeping on the couch, going between the two rooms to like, I didn't really take care of them that much, but like I took care of them. Like I gotta
That's
say,
nice.
I mean,
2023 is for me, so
is
remember
for
that.
me.
Yeah.
But we were very lucky that we were able to get Grandma Paxlovid the day she tested positive. And, but the Paxlovid almost killed her. She really hated it. She felt she was not well. She wanted to give up several times. To put some context around this woman's 89 years old. And because of lifelong asthma, she has COPD. So she has like, a lot of risk factors and stuff. So yeah, the Paxlovid really took it out of her. But she was negative by like day 6. And Carlos was mostly negative by day 6. And a week and a half later, everyone's COVID free. So
Yay!
Yeah, it was a mercifully moderate COVID in our house.
And you sort of like nursed them, but not really.
Well, like I nurse them in as much as I nurse people. Like you have to remember, I mean, I can do
You're more
it
of a
if I need to.
verbal nursing.
I will like attend to you, and I will get you things, and I will like whatever. Like if you wanted me to rub Vicks Vapor Rub on your chest, I would for sure do it. And none of them, they didn't require me to like really like truly care for them. But like after my grandma broke her hip, and we had to deal with like a commode in her room and things like that. And I had to tend to like this horrible bed sore that had developed at like the base of her
No.
the base of her spine, right? Like anyway.
Yeah, you've done your time.
Yeah.
I'm not like a nurse like my sister is, but I can take care of people. But anyway, you know what? That was how I spent my holidays. How about you guys?
Well, we had that epic storm just before Christmas, and luckily the snow turned to heaps and heaps and heaps of rain, so I was able to get out to Chilliwack.
Good.
For those people listening who aren't in the lower mainland of Vancouver, that's about an hour. It took about a 2-hour drive to get there, which usually takes about an hour, but major bridge was closed, and was able to make it for Christmas Eve and have our big Scandinavian Christmas dinner. And all I needed to do was to get that out of the way, and made it back home. And so no complaints at all.
That's great.
That's great. Then you just relaxed for the rest of the time.
And then I had a week off of work. I just relaxed. I didn't know what day it was. Like most people between Christmas and New Year's, what day is it? Who knows? Who cares? Why do I need to know? And then on New Year's Eve, I went for a lovely potluck. And brought in the new year bashing pots and pans in the streets of East Vancouver.
That's nice.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad for you. Like you got a nice relaxing.
I know you did a big
break.
dinner, right? The big Christmas dinner.
Yeah, like we had our family over, and then like my mother-in-law was staying with us, and like just between having like a house guest with you, and then having to like clean up your house, and then having to grocery shop for the dinner, and then cook everything, and do associated baking of cookies and stuff. Like it was just exhausting, and I just feel like I didn't really get any time off until like the last 3 or 4 days of the holidays. And so, yeah, that's where I am. And then I was forced to watch Gigli. So it's just been that kind of holiday where it's like you try to catch your breath.
Yeah.
And then like another anvil falls on your head.
I really think that's the perfect segue. So, sorry, folks. We watched Gigli.
Well, so that folks don't have to, hopefully.
Yes. You know what?
Let us be the cautionary tale. If you've avoided it for 20 years, keep on that track.
And if you think it would be funny to watch it 20 years later, the year after J-Lo and Ben reunite and get married, just know that it's not.
Let's just say if this is the movie that brought them together, they overcame some tremendous odds.
You're listening to Pop This.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
Oh my God, I forgot to say my name. I'm Andrea Warner. You know what? Keep it in. Keep it in.
It's the curse of Gigli.
This is exactly how we should start 2023. Just with some rough footing and aiming for something better.
I think this movie has just knocked all of us sideways. Because,
Truly.
Look, I understood that it is one of the worst movies ever made. But I don't think, I kind of went into it thinking, I recently saw Xanadu. I know what a bad movie is.
Xanadu now looks like high art.
I know.
It truly is high art compared to this.
But this Xanadu, you can sort of, appreciate in a campy way, the roller skating, the 70s, the music, and you can laugh, and it's funny. But, Gigli is seriously a bad movie that is unforgivably bad, that you it's just there's nothing to laugh about it at Gigli.
No, there's nothing. There's just actually more of a wincing movie, no, like that.
I agree. I truly, within the first 5 minutes, maybe 7, I turned to Carlos and I was like, oh my God. Lisa warned me that this is offensive, but I didn't know how offensive, because I don't think you could have convinced me until I saw it myself necessarily. I mean, people I think will be convinced by this podcast because we're going to talk about it, but oh my God. And it's not
shocking.
It's not like it's era specifically offensive. It would have still been offensive in 2003.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Or it should have been.
It should have been.
And obviously, 6% on Rotten Tomatoes will tell you something. It is offensive.
6% on Rotten. But can you imagine, I just want to, let's just really think about this. So they're filming this movie in 2002. Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck meet. This is the movie on which they manage to find, their love and their attraction blooms. Their relationship lasts a year and a half, at least. Maybe even 2 years. I can't remember exactly what it was. But then they break up for 18 years. They both marry other people. They both have kids with a bunch of other people. Both have different relationships. And then they circle back to each other 20 years after they met. And they say to each other, you know what? Meeting you on Gigli was one of the best moments of my life. Do you remember that time we had to monologue at each other about penises and vaginas and the merits of both, and really reduce people's sexuality and gender to stereotypes and tropes and be extremely offensive and homophobic and all kinds of other things. That was that movie. Oh, do you remember that movie where we were so offensive to people with developmental disabilities that it is, honestly, this movie is like a hate crime on a lot of levels.
Against humanity. Yeah, I know.
Against humanity.
And filmmaking, really, in general.
And filmmaking. And especially like the use of the music, the scores. And this is the movie where they found the downtime between scenes to find love. I was prepared to root for them as a couple. And one of the reasons I suggested we do this. I was even happy that maybe they had found their way back to each other, even though I've never thought that Ben Affleck deserves Jennifer Lopez. And now I must insist that they break up.
I must insist.
Well, I mean, I think that
they give me $4.99 back.
I think that is an interesting parallel when you watch this movie, because you also don't understand why Jennifer Lopez's character has any interest in Ben Affleck's character. It's parallel to their real life relationship.
Agreed.
It just doesn't make any sense.
There is nothing in this movie that gives any justification for Ricky to give Larry the time of day, let alone,
And yet.
Oh my gosh, that's the subheading of this podcast. And yet.
Like in November, Jennifer Lopez suggested that she was interested in making a remake of this movie.
No,
a sequel. Sorry. Yeah.
Like what look, we did the math last night. This is our 7th Jennifer Lopez movie.
Yes. I wanted to say that off the bat too, is that we're all on record as being, appreciative of Jennifer Lopez's body of work.
Yes.
In general.
Agreed. Mm-hmm.
And I honestly think that she is absolutely the best thing about this movie, but doesn't make the movie good. And just because she can still glow through really just like a mud pit of some of the worst dialogue I've ever heard in my entire life.
Was there a moment where she just said, "You're not going to make me sit in the car again, are you?" was there a moment where she said, "You're not going to make me actually deliver an embarrassing monologue while I do yoga"? That's not really going to happen, is it?
Do you think there was a moment where any of them said to themselves, "We've kidnapped a character and we're driving around LA in a convertible"?
Yeah. Without seatbelts,
just
apparently.
Basic tenets of this movie are so stupid.
I was so distracted by the fact that Ben Affleck can't act, drive, and deliver dialogue at the same time. He's doing either or.
It's hard for some people.
I have to stop acting like I'm driving in order to deliver these lines, and then I'm gonna just pretend to drive again.
Yeah, and also I know we're jumping all over and we're getting ahead, and we'll calm down in a second, but I hope that Justin Bartha.
Oh, I don't know if we will.
I know. I hope that Justin Bartha issued an apology and has been paying money to nonprofit charities supporting people with disabilities since he performed this role. It is a monstrosity what he does. Yikes. That was 2003. Yeah. His entire form of acting, I honestly hope his teeth dried out. That was his character choice, is that his character couldn't keep his teeth in his mouth. As someone whose teeth do sometimes pop out of my mouth unwillingly, that is such a gross stereotype of oh my God, this is such an offensive movie.
Yeah, and Rain Man, I looked it up, it's from 1988. So
they had 15 years to get it a little better.
Yeah, exactly. And did not.
No.
Yeah.
They did not. They might have doubled down and gone worse.
But when I heard about like in my mind, Gigli was considered one of the worst movies ever made because like I thought that the performances were terrible, the story's dumb, like maybe the filmmaking was bad or something. Like I didn't quite understand that it's offensive, like 20 layers of offensive in all different directions.
Honestly, me neither. And I cannot state more deeply and like apologetically, I did not know that it wasn't just a bad movie, that it's a bad to humanity movie. I'm so sorry I suggested this. Like this is on me. And I just, can I actually, I am going to jump ahead for 1 second to something because I was struck. Not only does J-Lo think that they should do a sequel, but Ben Affleck, when told by his own daughter, like his own daughter said to him, and this is a quote from an interview he did in Entertainment Weekly that Paper Magazine repeated, "There are things where my daughter will be like, this is ableist and disgusting. And okay," he said, "the way we see stuff has changed a little bit, or a lot in some cases. And there are things that seemed they could work at the time and didn't in retrospect." He is taking no accountability for what this movie does by just even existing in the world.
I wonder if you're allowed to ask him about it when you do interviews. There's got to be a time where your Gigli for a long time was like off the table to be discussed.
I mean, I honestly hope his kid is just like holding his feet to the fire, roasting him every single day. And, just causing him to reflect on things. Because I do not feel that either J-Lo or Ben Affleck are reflecting on it when there's talk of a sequel.
Yeah, I mean, like, far from a sequel, like, I think, like, all current circulating copies of Gigli should be, like, quietly put on a shelf somewhere and sort of, like, with a, you have to read this essay on this movie before so you understand what you're in for.
Yeah.
And then, like, if you make the decision to watch it, it's all on you.
Yeah. If you really, really want to feel that uncomfortable with also the added bonus of having no rom, no com, no good acting, no style, no sophistication, no good clothing, makeup, music, nothing to speak for it. Go ahead.
But, like, given all the problems, which we've sort of like quickly glossed over and we'll dive into deeper, the scene where J-Lo and Ben Affleck are like, having sex, and it's like an overhead shot, and he just has this like dead-eyed face.
Complete dead-eyed face.
And doesn't it make people think like, is that what that actually looks like?
Truly, honestly, like
and like, like as a couple, a real life couple, do you want that out there? Like, people having that visual and thinking that? I would think not.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yes.
He looks like a sack of flour.
Yeah.
In all of their lovemaking scenes
at
in
one
this
point,
movie.
He looked so much like Adam Sandler that I almost freaked out. And then we decided that they should play brothers in a future film because that could actually work. It's bad.
Yeah,
I think I really hope that anyone listening has now we've probably intrigued them. It can't be that bad. Believe us, it can.
Yeah.
It actually can.
And it's not even like the kind of bad where you're like, you have to necessarily see it for yourself. Like if honestly, like if we didn't have to do it for the podcast and Lisa was just telling me about like the number of different people like and groups and, marginalized and historically oppressed people are like targeted in this film, I'd be like, yeah, no, I can skip it. Mm-hmm. We're good. I'm good. I don't need to participate. That's how I absolutely feel about this movie. I don't need to participate.
No,
it's terrible.
But yet we did.
I know.
And yet.
Yeah, there we go.
No, I'm on it, yeah. This is one of those movies that I regret recommending. There have been very few that I have really truly regretted because I think we've had some interesting conversations. But I genuinely regret recommending this movie.
You weren't to know. Like, I don't think it's out there in the general public, like how
Once I started reading
bad this is.
once I started reading about it, I found out I didn't even know the basic plot. Like, as soon as I saw him go into the center where Brian, Justin Bartha's character, lives, I turned to Carlos and I was like, oh no. And he's like, you don't know that the plot of this movie is that they have to kidnap a man with developmental disabilities? And I was like, are you kidding me? No. I honestly, I just had never investigated
I
what
never
it
heard-
was
I didn't
even
either.
about.
No, neither did I.
Yeah. And then when we get into all the like gender panic and homophobia and like anti-lesbian, oh my God. Anyway.
Okay.
And suicide attempts. Let's not forget. Let's just
yes.
brush off that.
Yeah. No, those
Defiling corpses. I mean, let's just keep going.
it's wild.
Well, like, frankly, on the least sort of like on the offensive scale, this is one of their lesser crimes, but it is even a crime against gangsters.
It's weird, but yeah, I actually was like, oh my God, like I kind of feel like everybody from New Jersey should be able to sue these people. Like, I mean, it's not that all gangsters live in New Jersey, but these people, I believe the gangsters are like originally from New Jersey or whatever. Oh my God, so bad. Gangsters.
So I think
can
you've
be
already
from
given
everywhere.
up the plot, really, but I guess there's a bit more.
Well, here we go. Let's do it. Would you like to read the background, Lisa?
Sure. Gigli rhymes with really, as we learned in the film, is a 2003 American romantic comedy crime film. This should be in quotation marks, but
All of it should
whatever.
be in quotation marks.
Yeah, exactly. Except for this part. Written and directed by Martin Brest and starring Ben Affleck, Jennifer Lopez, Justin Bartha, Al Pacino, Christopher Walken, and Lainey Kazan. Despite popular media giving attention and interest to the film during production, primarily because stars Affleck and Lopez were romantically involved at the time, Gigli was heavily panned, and in the years since release, it has been considered one of the worst films of all time. It was also one of the most expensive box office bombs in history, grossing $7.2 million against a $75.6 million budget. To date, it is the most recent film Brest directed. So that's from 2003. That was the last. And he learned his lesson, I guess, is the best way to describe that.
Well, and I mean, we should note in case anyone doesn't know what he's made before, but he made the movies Beverly Hills Cop, Midnight Run, Scent of a Woman, and then Meet Joe Black and Gigli. So, and then has never made a movie since that.
An intriguing filmography. It's very rare that a bad film will stop a man from getting a second chance in Hollywood. So I am intrigued whether this is by his choice or what he has moved on to in the rest of his life. I'm curious.
I guess you
about that.
can't scrub that from your bio, right?
It's a hard one.
It's a hard
one to scrub.
It sticks out.
Yeah. Well, and also like from what from reading a bit about stuff that happened in the post-production and in the making of the film and with the script and stuff, like he had final edit, but there was like massive interference on a lot of different levels, and that it was a darker, weirder film originally, and it became this. And I'm not
It's a pretty dark and weird film, though. I mean, there's no. I
think it's also very boring, though.
Well, it's a really bad premise, and it takes forever to try and get anywhere with it.
Yeah, and I don't want to give Martin Brest any credit at all. I imagine that there is a scenario in which it was so bad, and he may blame the studios or other people that he didn't want to make another film. Or it's so bad because he chose all these things, and he's one of the rare dudes who doesn't get another chance. It's so rare for like a guy like this to not get another chance, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That I have to.
The failing up in Hollywood is a very popular activity.
It's like the history of Hollywood. So that's why I'm curious as to. Anyway, AG, would you like to read the synopsis?
Sure. A cartoonishly tough-talking freelance gangster/assassin named Gigli is tasked with kidnapping Brian, a young man with developmental disabilities. When a second freelance assassin, a beautiful and smart woman named Ricky, is assigned to watch Gigli, the two have to figure out a way to work together in close quarters and complete the job they were hired to do.
That's a very general synopsis, but it's the best I could craft.
But I mean, you don't know that beneath that is just like the depths of some of like the worst stuff you will ever see on screen.
Well, I was trying to be neutral.
And how boring this is too.
Yeah. So none of us had ever seen it before, right? Like this, we all came to it super fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am fascinated. So like, I want to jump around a tiny bit in like the sort of like sketchy outline that I put together for this episode, because I'm kind of, so this woman named Alyssa Wilkinson wrote about revisiting the film last year for Vox, and she like wanted to do it for sort of the same reasons that we did. Like J-Lo and Bennifer's back together. They got married on July 16th, 2022. Great time to revisit Gigli, which, came out this year. So it's, she got there a bit early. She got there a bit ahead of us. And she she's written a very large piece that is helpful and has some interesting information. And I highly recommend people check it out. She actually says, and I'm going to just quote this paragraph because this is how she this whole paragraph is kind of a wild thing to me. Here's the thing. The movie really isn't quite as bad as its reputation makes it out to be. That is a wild thing to say, because I think it's 400 times worse than its reputation makes it out to be.
I agree.
Yeah, I do too.
So she gives a bit of context around what happened to it. It opened in 2,215 theaters in 2003, and it dropped by a record-setting 81.9% by the second weekend and 97% by the third. So that means, she's written, is that by the third weekend, it was only playing in 73 theaters in all of America. Wow. Like, what a wild failure. But also,
well, for a movie starring the two biggest stars of that time. Two of
the biggest stars ever at that time. Also, Ben Affleck got paid an extra $0.5 million over J-Lo for this, by the way, which, gross. Because I feel like she endures more. But how can you watch it in 2022? And I'm sorry, I know I should have just challenged Alyssa to a personal fight or something instead of coming for her blindly behind her back on this podcast. I don't know this woman. But just like, how can you watch it in 2022 and say that it's not as bad as you've heard?
I don't know, because it was a million times worse than I heard. And I'd heard it was like the worst movie ever made.
And it lived up to that for me, definitely.
Yeah. Like, I don't understand it. I'm trying to figure out. There's also a weird defense of it in The Guardian from a couple years ago. And I kid you not, but Roger Ebert was relatively generous to the film at the time as well when it came out originally. So not even like revisiting it later. Obviously, he's been dead a while, but he gave it 2.5 stars. And he wrote, and I quote, "The movie tries to do something different, thoughtful, and a little daring with their relationship. And although it doesn't quite work, maybe the movie is worth seeing for some scenes that are really very good."
I would like, sadly, we can't ask Roger Ebert that, but I would love him to explain to me which particular scenes he's talking about.
I would love that as well. Because I think this is like very much sort of male gazy nonsense. Where,
I agree.
You're just like, you can definitely put this movie together. J-Lo's character reveals that she's a lesbian, and then she ultimately reveals that she's slept with some men, which apparently negates her identifying as a lesbian. Then she does have sex with Ben Affleck, but she can still identify as a lesbian if she wishes. But that
Ben is
sort of,
so good. He just turns her right around.
After he's made a speech about how there's a bull and a cow in every relationship. It is the things this movie does to contort itself into thinking that it is maybe saying something mildly clever about toxic masculinity, gender dynamics, gender binaries, gender fluidity, and like the sexual spectrum, like the sexuality spectrum. Like it really thinks it's doing something here. And I just, it's failing so spectacularly oh my God.
Like, I think the first mistake they made was casting Ben Affleck in this role. Like, he is not in any way convincing as a gangster.
No.
He is not, like, he doesn't display any humor or charm or anything. Like, it doesn't make any sense, like, that Ricky would be interested in him at all, period. Like, there's nothing.
Except maybe Stockholm Syndrome, and that's the only thing I will say that could have possibly happened.
She's not even being held. I mean, she's,
No, but I don't know. I mean, and also, who trusts someone who has a home without books? I mean, if there's ever been a red flag, and the fact that when he has to read from the back of boxes, it's also humiliating. And they even bother to show Ricky reading and being very smart. So it, like you said, the male gaze, this idea that, oh, he's just so attractive that there's nothing she can do. A man that gives nothing is so bland, but she cannot stay away from him.
And she assumes, like the character, like J-Lo is written, her character has to sort of like try to like do these long monologues where she explains that he's actually scared and sad, and that's what's fueling his anger. And she has to explain him to himself over and over and over again. She has to explain, all kinds of different things, such as pleasure and sensuality and control and power dynamics. And like, it's, him wanting to, like, again, this is a very tried and punishing trope of like everyone wants to like have sex with their mommy or whatever, but have her be a hot J-Lo as well. And it's just bleh. Like, I don't know, man. The demons that this scriptwriter was exercising in this script are painful.
But also, Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck have zero chemistry together on screen.
It's a bit hard to have chemistry in the blandest apartment set I've ever seen with the worst bedding. I mean, think of something terrible. That's on the clearance rack at Target. And that is where they must have picked that up.
There were no good linens on which you could possibly fornicate.
No.
It's just like, but the Larry as being this like angry, posturing, blah, blah, blah. And we're supposed to see through that and see through that he's just putting on this show of like, but we know he's ultimately a good son because he'll go to his mom's house and like put her needle in her butt and poor Lainey Kazan, like she deserves so much better. I mean, I like her dynamic with J-Lo. I think that was like kind of like the only tiny moment that I enjoyed.
Is that the Roger Ebert scene then? Maybe that one? But otherwise, that was just like, again, then we're all wondering what happened to Ben if he got such an awesome mom.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's just, I mean, I guess we're supposed to see her as like overbearing and too revealing. And she's the bad version, but she also like can't help but have raised a secretly tender boy. Ugh, God.
Yeah, I know.
What a dull premise. Do you think? Okay.
Well, like I'm gonna say that like the character, Ben Affleck's character, doesn't even need to be in this movie. Ricky could have like done the whole job in the same way.
You're completely right.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This movie could have just been called Ricky.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my God, there's like a much better version of this movie. Is Ricky just monologuing to herself all the time?
That is the only way they can do a sequel. If it's just called Ricky and it's about her just living a good life. after this unfortunate
Gigli himself
incident.
actually died as they were
Yeah.
driving away because he knew that she would never really love him in the way that he wanted to be loved. So he just like suicide rolled out of the car. She ran him over and continued out of town. Then we pick up with Ricky 22 years later, where she is doing a lot of good charity work for people with developmental disabilities and neurodivergent folks. And maybe she's killing white supremacists. Like I think that's an interesting film.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll watch that.
All right. So
we've just rewritten the entire movie.
I really like this idea. I think this has merit. Do you think if we put together a pitch to J-Lo, explained to her that Gigli itself is trash, we won't specify that Ben Affleck is trash, but she'll read between the lines, and that we can convince her to just make
no,
Ricky.
absolutely not. She's in it.
She's in it. I know. There's nothing you can do. What do you?
I'm sure the other thing that must have happened is Baywatch must have wanted to sue.
Yeah, like
I know. Just another. Put your hands on your face. What was that?
What was that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Or when like he's forced to say the line, "My penis sneezed."
Yeah.
God bless you. Like, oh my God. I really, who do you think, like they usually hire secret script doctors to like, punch up the script or whatever. Like, who do you think secretly worked on that script to like come up with those? Or do you think anyone did?
No one who's going to step up and take credit for it. That's for sure.
No.
I get embarrassed just even remembering that scene. Just so like I want to cover my face in my hands. So
The whole time.
Yeah. Well, the whole time. Yes. Yeah.
I was just watching it head in hands and being like, no. Okay, but I will confess that I thought that J-Lo and Ben Affleck had chemistry like for like 5 minutes.
Really?
I know.
What part?
I thought that there were like moments where like I'm saying 5 minutes total in the whole film, not like out any one scene.
Oh, okay.
But I thought there were moments where when like Ricky would have to smile at him and the camera wasn't really moving quickly enough to get away from Ben Affleck's face, that like it looked like his real expression was there, like kind of falling for Jennifer Lopez in that moment. I know maybe I'm seeing things that like
I think you're projecting.
I'm projecting.
You're trying too hard because it was a long movie too.
It was a
like
long
2
movie.
hours.
I guess I was trying to entertain myself and look for moments where like maybe the behind the scenes was bleeding onto the. I don't know.
Well, it's hard to think about the movie without knowing that they became a couple. Like, what would the movie have been like if you didn't know that? Would you have seen? I still didn't feel any chemistry. I still felt like she was trying too hard. And one of the things that I found particularly offensive was the use of the violins. In some, I mean, obviously
The score is
it's
wildly inappropriate.
yeah. It just all of a sudden the violins start up and you go, oh, cue. I'm supposed to be thinking this is a meaningful scene. It's like they put it in after.
And they put it in without watching.
Without watching, yeah.
Like, every time the violin started, I was like, do they know
it was
what they're...
really pronounced. It was really
so pronounced.
obvious. And
Yeah. I kept making notes and just being like, what are we supposed to be feeling in this moment? Like, it's not good.
No.
Has anyone ever seen Scent of a Woman?
No.
Me neither.
I've never, the whole seeing Al Pacino yelling all the time, never it made me want to watch.
No,
I don't hate Al Pacino. I mean, obviously I'm, watch Godfather movies and all of that, but no, never The Scent of a Woman.
What'd you think of his ponytail?
At that point,
he can do whatever, I guess, at that point.
Like it was like a breath of fresh when he came in, let's be honest, I mean.
Honestly, Christopher Walken too, like as soon as he came in. And I like that there's no clear understanding of what he's doing. with that character. Does he work for the mob? Is he an actual police person? Is he a corrupt police person? I have no idea.
Christopher Walken or Al Pacino?
Christopher Walken.
Oh yeah, I didn't. I still don't even know what the whole point was to kidnap this young man. Like, what was supposed to happen?
Some kind of federal prosecutor was like,
I knew that part, but what? So with
I guess they were hoping he would drop the case or something.
Drop the case. Yeah. See, it's so vague. I don't even know. Nobody
so
knows.
Vague.
Even Al Pacino didn't seem to know.
I don't even know really ultimately who he was.
It says to use as a bargaining chip to save New York-based mob boss Starkman from prison.
Oh, okay. Well,
it's not that clear.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, but I did. Christopher Walken has a good time with what he's doing.
He always does.
He makes, but it's so stark, like how bad Ben Affleck is in this film.
Yeah.
When he's acting next to Christopher Walken.
Has Ben Affleck always been this bad? Like, have we seen him in things where you go, like, I mean, I know he won the Academy Award for Argo? What's it called again? Argo, which I saw. I saw that. That was okay.
I saw that. Like, he was fine in that.
I've seen Good Will Hunting, but he's fine.
He's fine. He's like, I mean, he stars in another movie about how like Chasing Amy, where he is in another situation where he's his character's in love with a lesbian and it's a conversion kind of thing and gets complicated and messy, etc.
The year after Gigli, he and JLo were in Jersey Girl together.
Yeah.
And it was a total box office bomb. I never saw it.
I never saw it either.
I may have, but it's completely gone from my head.
I mean, he was good in Mallrats, which is a strange thing to say, but he is playing such a dirtbag in Mallrats, and he just does that really, really well. And honestly, you know what? I really liked him in the movie where he was also a dirtbag. The one Amazing Amy, and she fakes her own murder based on the Gillian
Gone
Flynn.
Girl.
Gone Girl.
Gone Girl. Yeah, he was good in that. Yeah,
he was good in Gone Girl.
Yeah,
but he's good when he's playing a jerk or like
agreed.
a sad sack jerk.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Was he good in He's Just Not That Into You? No, he wasn't. But nobody really was in that.
Nobody
movie,
was in that, to be fair.
No.
That's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I am looking at this like filmography, and I got like he was in Armageddon.
Oh yeah, okay.
Reindeer
He's just around
Games.
all the time.
I've heard Reindeer Games is terrible too, by the way.
Yeah, Pearl Harbor.
Oh yeah, that was a real bomb too.
The Sum of All Fears.
Oh, and then he was an action film guy, because I saw him in another one recently, a heist film called Triple Threat? No, Triple Frontier. That's what it was called. See, that's my showbiz mind goes to Triple Threat, but it was called Triple Frontier. But
no, it was Triple Threat, and he did jazz hands, and he danced, and he sang.
And it was a heist movie in the jungle of South America.
That sounds okay.
I mean, I would see that.
No, I would see that too, but that was not what I saw.
Yeah. But like, here's the thing. This is a terrible film.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't even touch the storyline of when Ricky's girlfriend.
I mentioned the suicide attempt.
Yeah.
Which is really, really, really dark. And there's another one of those male gaze tropes of let's watch the lesbians fight. So that had to happen, I guess.
Yeah, and she automatically goes to like, okay, well, all three of us can, have sex, and
where does that even? I don't even understand it. It just comes out of nowhere.
It means nothing. It means nothing. Like so I think that this excerpt from an article on Scream Queens, which was published in 2021, we can link to it in the show notes, but the writer whose name I'm sorry I did not get, but they write, Gigli is not queer cinema. The only significant LGBTQ plus character is played by Jennifer Lopez, Ricky, who identifies as a lesbian. I think she's helping Gigli with a job. Again, the plot didn't stick with me. The point is he likes her and obviously, quote, turns her into liking men. Imagine the audacity. The other queer character is Ricky's girlfriend, who, in a jealous fit, cuts herself in front of everyone. Yes, that is an actual scene in the movie, which, by the way, they play off easily. Gigli is everything wrong in this world and then some, not even mentioning how they represent and mock disabilities. It also gives the idea that a lesbian is a lesbian because they haven't met Ben Affleck yet. Gigli is a significant example of bad representation when it comes to the lesbian community. Yeah.
Yeah, understatement too.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost a generous write-up, but
Well,
it's
I mean,
part of a
it's-
larger article.
It's such a stark difference because, like, you can, as we've been talking about, see, like, these lesbian characters in Gigli were written by a man, and it's like lesbians as seen by the male gaze.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, we just saw Carol a few weeks ago, where, you know, Patricia Highsmith and Todd Haynes, like, completely are able to sort of, like, do these characters that are true to the the lesbian gaze and are free from the male gaze. And it's just like such a stark difference to watch those two movies so close together and just understand the difference, the huge difference
Absolutely.
that is there.
Yeah. This movie's bad, y'all.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I know it's an understatement, but it's so bad.
It really is.
Yeah.
It really is. Right to the very ending, right to the very last second, where they leave poor kidnapped victim, whose name I never remember, Brian, on the set of a Baywatch dance competition. I don't know, a commercial. I don't know what it is. And we're supposed to be heartwarmed by the fact that he's learned how to objectify women.
Yeah, and that he's dancing and having a good time, I guess, living his dream. But
And then they leave him there.
They just abandon him.
They just abandoned him. Yeah.
With no money, no phone, no nothing.
No ability to get anyone because no one's going to figure out who he is and he doesn't know where he lives.
And they've rendered this character as if he has no capacity for, you know, autonomy or self-preservation or anything. But he gets to talk to an Australian woman and visit the Baywatch, quote unquote. If that's the character really, I mean, that might be the character that ends the film in the best spot of all because they are free of Gigli.
Yeah.
So
finally. Yes.
Finally.
Yes.
Finally. And at least they've got both their thumbs.
Yeah. There's that.
I know it's not a lot, but it's something.
I just have to think that it's such a huge risk for Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck to be in another movie together.
Yeah.
Like, are they seriously considering it?
Oh, I'm sure.
I just think
I don't know.
there's a lot of hubris in their dynamic. And honestly, that quote from Ben Affleck, you know, sharing how his daughter says the film is disgusting and ableist, and he not at all accepting that or validating that and just skating past it. What are you going to do? Like he's not someone who's willing to learn or think about what he's been complicit in.
But you just have to think that those two watch this movie and think, like, it's not that bad. Like, we look amazing in this movie. Like, we're having a great time. Like, we want to relive our heyday.
They watch it differently than we
back.
do. They see two people in love. They see, and Jennifer Lopez cannot not watch this film and go, I look so good. Because, let's be honest,
looks amazing.
It looks amazing.
For sure. But like, but we know we've seen J-Lo in love. And she loves pretty hard and pretty wholly, possibly sometimes to her own detriment. But, you know, she's a grown woman And not our friend. So
No, I don't know her very well. I mean, obviously I feel like I know her, but I don't know her.
exactly. But yeah, I mean, you know, I
It's
hope this is the
disappointing.
worst thing that
Yes,
they ever
that they
do
do.
together.
Yeah, there's a good ending.
Yeah.
So I think I know where this stands for all of us, but does Gigli pop?
It is the flattest thing, or one of the flattest things I think we've ever discussed on this podcast.
For me, this movie is like it's in a league of its own in terms of
Mm-hmm.
bad movies I've ever seen in my life. Like I can't even compare it to anything.
Yeah, it is for me a negative pop. It is a
Negative pop.
just like a horrific stain on Hollywood.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And love. Let's just.
And yet, Gigli Part 2 coming 2025.
Yeah, Ricky.
Yeah, well, let's just say we'll avoid that.
Unless it's the film we have pitched, written, and we're suddenly Hollywood people. Check in with us 5 years from now. We love to leave our show on something we genuinely recommend. Lisa, would you like to go first?
Sure. I am late to this party. Not too bad. The second season just came out, I think, in December of last year. And it's a show called Slow Horses. And it is a spy thriller.
I recommended that like 6 months ago.
You did? And I
Yeah.
missed that?
Yeah, so
Oh, sorry. Oh, my gosh. Sorry, I missed that.
that's it. No. I'm glad you watched it because it's
Yeah, it's really, really good. Thank you. Sorry. Late to the party. Obviously, very, very late.
Well, I'm glad you both liked it. That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about MI6 agents that are like kind of sidelined because they've had disasters in their careers, and they're all put in this like one department to sort of, just not do anything. But
Punch
One
paper
day.
and one day. Yeah.
a case falls onto their laps.
Awesome. That's great. Well, excellent. AG, what about you? What are you recommending?
So over the holidays, I did have time to decompress and watch Fleishman is in Trouble, which is
Oh, yeah.
a miniseries on Disney Plus starring Claire Danes, Jesse Eisenberg, Lizzie Kaplan, Adam Brody. And it's kind of about like, this 40-something-year-old guy who's going through divorce. And one day his wife drops off his kids in the middle of the night and then kind of just disappears. And he doesn't know what happened to her. But it's not like it's not a thriller or anything like that. It's just like it's like a New York kind of based drama. And I would also say like it's an 8-part miniseries, and the first part of it is a bit of a slog, but like you have to make it to the end because that's where the payoff is. Like you can't just watch the first few episodes and be like, yeah, whatever. Like the genius of the series is in the last 2 episodes. So you need to like stick it out through the entire thing.
That's a good note because, I have watched the first 2 episodes of things and then just been like, nah, I'm good.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, it's just like you think it's one thing when you watch the first few episodes, but if you watch it to the end, you realize it's a completely different thing.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you. Have you read the book?
No, I have not read the book. I heard it's excellent. I'm now going to order it based on how much I enjoyed the series.
I love, I've really appreciated, so it's written by Taffy Ackner Brosner or Taffy Ackner Brosner?
Taffy Brodesser Ackner.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you. But I've really appreciated a lot of her profiles that she's written. She's done some doozies. This is her like debut novel, I think. And then she wrote the screenplay for it. So
yeah. And so, like it's been a while since I've seen a Claire Danes in a TV miniseries. And I just always enjoy her performances.
cool. That's great. I'm going to recommend two things. I'm going to cheat this week because I want to recommend one new thing and then a rewatch that I'm doing. There is an artist called Pool Blood who will release their debut album on January 13th. It's called Mole. And Pool Blood is the artist name. The artist themselves is Mariam Said or Mariam Said. I don't remember how to pronounce their last name. It's just a great, weird record. And I don't want to say much more, but it's like, it's a bit DIY, it's a bit cuddlecore, it's a bit Riot Girl, and it's a bit all over the place. And I really love it. And it's brought me so much pleasure the last couple months. And the artist uses both she, her, and they, them pronouns. So you may see them referred to as both or interchangeable or what have you. Mariam is great and very young, and it's just a very cool, weird little record. And it's 9 tracks. I think people should listen to it. It comes out January 13th.
Nice.
And I'm also rewatching The Good Place, which just felt like good.
Yeah.
It felt I haven't watched it like in its entirety since it aired, and it felt good. Well, Grandma and Carlos both had COVID, and it has really felt good as we enter 2023. It's a nice time to watch The Good Place.
Smart. Yeah.
You're right. That does feel good, especially after this whole Gigli situation.
Honestly,
Yeah, I need some philosophy.
Yeah. It's a good palate cleanser. Still tons of anti-fatness. Just a heads up to all my fellow fats, but it's more palatable in its anti-fatness than other Michael Schur properties, which is a fun quirk of his. But what are you gonna do? People come to their own acceptances at their own stages, and the rest of us just tolerate it or call it out. I've decided to do both.
To call it out. Yes.
Just gonna do both. Well, thank you everyone for listening. You have really just made everything so much better by being a part of our little world online, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. We
are returning the gift to you by telling you to never watch Gigli.
Never watch this movie.
We're
please
for you.
Please don't watch this movie. You could rate and review us 5 stars on iTunes or wherever you listen. I don't know if anyone else rates and reviews with 5 stars, but you know what? Force them. Just adapt whatever you're doing to make it work for that system. And if you'd like to email us, you could email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com. We'd love your suggestions, your recommendations. I do not wish to hear any Gigli defenses though, so I'm going to just say no.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, and just in case it didn't come through in this hour of us discussing it, it's not a hate or a fun hate watch. This is not one of those things. Xanadu, on the other hand, now I'm just like, let's all watch that again. But no, not really. Thanks to Andrea.
At least Xanadu has the fun Gene Kelly fashion sequence.
Yeah,
on roller skates, no less.
And
anyway,
a lot of good roller skating numbers.
A lot of great.
Yeah.
roller
Okay.
skating.
Well, honestly, now I'm on side. Now I feel really guilty that I thought that was the worst movie.
Gigli has completely reset our meter of what is bad.
It should. We'll just call it. Was it as bad as Gigli? That's what we'll always say from now on.
Yeah. God, there's a lot of things we've watched.
That is our.
It's actually made me think more kindly of Death Becomes Her from last week.
I know. It changes everything.
It changes everything.
Us seeing this movie has changed everything.
Yeah.
We may have to review everything we've rated for the entire history of this podcast based on how bad Gigli is.
Yeah, we have a lowest film. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now we know.
And now you know. That's what's more important.
It is. Well, thank you everyone for listening.
Thanks so much.
Bye.